Hey everyone, so today we're going over 10.4. You should have the notes. We'll go through the definitions on the front page. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 definitions. And then it looks like there are some 5 examples and we'll be done. So short video. Now, once again, like I said, on class on Wednesday, if you guys are more than welcome to watch the video together as a class, take notes together as a class, help each other out, things like that. The video is going to be short, right? Because obviously I'm not here to answer questions, so I'm just going to go through the notes. So the video is going to be short, so don't be afraid to ask each other questions, look things up. There's homework, so you can work on homework too, okay, if you guys understand everything. So the first definition we're going to talk about is controlled experiment. Controlled experiment. Okay. So in a controlled experiment, 2 groups are studied under identical conditions with the exception of one variable. Okay, so the reason why it's called a controlled experiment is because you control everything. The only thing that changes is one thing, one variable changes. Everything else you have control over in these 2 groups. Okay? And this is a normal experiment that you're kind of used to when you're first learning, like the scientific method and things like that, is a controlled experiment. Okay, where you're testing one single variable, so everything else is the same between 2 groups except for that one variable, so you want to see if that one variable changes any outcomes. Okay. Next one is the control group. So the control group is the group under normal conditions with no treatment. Okay, so the control group in a controlled experiment is the group that doesn't get the variable. Okay, they're just going to stay the same. The treatment group this is the group that is subjected to the treatment. Okay, so the treatment group is the group that gets the variable, the thing that changes. Okay, so the difference between the control group and the treatment group is everything is identical, or should be, as close to identical as possible, except for that one variable you're testing. The treatment group gets that variable, the control group doesn't. Okay. Now remember, obviously you can pause the videos, right? Because I know I'm going fast, so pause the video so you can write things down. Okay. Next word, randomization. So randomization is randomly assigning subjects to different treatment groups. Okay. So randomization is important because if you don't randomize things, then you don't know if the treatment's actually working, right? Like if you're picking specific people, then you don't know if the treatment's working or if your own bias is causing the treatment. Okay. Randomized comparative experiment. Randomized comparative experiment. So subjects randomly assigned to control or treatment group. Okay. Once again, it needs to be random, because if you pick certain people, you don't know if the treatment was actually working or some characteristic that all these people that weren't random, like you picked that weren't random, maybe they all have a similar characteristic that maybe that's causing the treatment to work or not work. Okay, so it needs to be random. So how a lot of times this is done, especially like with people, if you only have like two different groups, a control group and a treatment group, a lot of times how it's done is you'll just randomly assign numbers to people. So let's say you have 100 people, everyone gets randomly assigned a number through a random number generator. All the evens are in the control group, all the odds are in the treatment group. Really easy to randomize like that. Okay. Placebo. Sometimes control group gets a harmless unmedicated treatment that resembles the treatment. Okay, so placebo is used because a lot of times, and it's been proven that sometimes our own mental awareness can cause sicknesses or cause us to heal, things like that. So if you have a control group and a treatment group, and let's say the control group knows that the treatment group is getting a certain treatment, they might get it in their head that they know they're not getting the medication, and so, and I don't know the medical terms behind this, but it's a true thing. They can get it in their head that they're not getting the medicine, and that can cause them to become sick. So a lot of times they'll give, especially people, researchers that are working in medicine, will give the control group a pill or something that looks identical to the actual treatment, but it actually does nothing, and we call it a placebo. That way they take the bias of the person's thoughts out of the control or out of the experiment. And then we have replication. So it's a repetition of the experiment under the same or similar conditions. So all experiments should be replicated, okay, repeated, because we don't know if the results we got for the first experiment were just by happen chance. And so the more you repeat an experiment, if you keep getting the same results out after you've repeated the experiment a lot, then we can trust that data more. For example, every time you drop a marker, it goes towards the center of the earth, right? And that's an experiment for the existence of gravity. Now that's been done billions and billions of times, right? Every time you fall down, that's an experiment of gravity. And since it's been happening every single time, we assume that gravity exists. Okay? And so that's just an example of replication that people do without really thinking about it. All right, so now turn to the second page. We have some example problems. So The first one there, the directions say, determine whether the study is randomized comparative experiment. If it is, describe the treatment group, and the control group. If it's not, explain why not and discuss whether the conclusions drawn from the study are valid. So the first one, baby DVDs improves language ability. So to test whether baby DVDs that highlight words and introduce music and art can improve language ability, parents with babies 0 to 24 months were given the choice of whether to let their babies watch the DVDs. 50 babies who watched the DVDs were observed for a year, as well as 50 other babies who did not watch the DVDs. At the end of the year, babies who watched the DVDs scored higher in a language development test. So this is not randomized. Okay, so number one is not randomized. Okay. The reason why they're not randomized is because the babies were not randomly assigned to a control in a treatment group, right? They were given a choice, parents were given a choice to whether to let their babies watch DVDs or not. That's not random. Okay, that's self-selection. And we talked about that last class period. So that's not random. And so it's not a randomized comparative experiment. So we're going to discuss discuss whether the conclusions drawn from the study are valid. So usually when things are not done randomly, if it's an experiment and it's not done randomly, they're usually not valid. So an example here, or a reason here, so one, conclusion may not be valid because maybe parents who don't let their babies watch DVDs, maybe they read to them more, right? Parents maybe read more. Another one that I have written down, if the parents watch the DVDs with the baby, and encourage interactions. So what we're saying here is, right, so we're looking at language development. Well, if the parents are watching the DVD with the babies and interacting with the babies are being exposed to language more because they're talking to their parents, they're listening to their parents. And the more you're exposed to a language, the easier it is to pick up and the quicker you learn. Right? So maybe it wasn't the DVD, maybe just parents were spending time with their kids, right? 3, we don't know how often the babies watch the DVDs. Maybe the babies only watched the DVD once and the parents were actually reading to the babies. Right? So we didn't have control over anything else that was going on. The parents could have been reading to the babies, they could have been watching different DVDs, right, that are different than these DVDs. So we don't really know what was going on. So we can say not controlled outside variables. Okay. All right, now let's look at question 2. So question 2, in a clinical trial, 100 type 1 diabetic patients volunteered to take a new drug. 50% of the patients received the drug and another 50% received a placebo. After 1 year, the patients who received the drug had better blood glucose control, while the placebo group experienced no significant change. Okay, so this one is randomized. Okay, it says 50% of the patients received the drug and the other 50% received the placebo. Right, and that's what I was talking about when, if you give people, like if you have 100 people, give them a random number and odds, half of them, 50%, the odds get the treatment and the evens get the placebo. That's what we were talking about earlier in the video. So this one is randomized. So the treatment is the drug for type 1 diabetes. The treatment group are the people that received the drug. So treatment group are the people who received the drug. And the control of the people who received the placebo. So the control of the people who received placebo. Okay. So flip paper over. Looking at number 3 and number 4. So on number 3 and number 4, it says, explain whether the research topic is best investigated through an experiment or an observational study. So remember last time we talked about an observational study. Then describe the design of the experiment or observational study. Okay, when it says describe, there's multiple answers. Just what would be a good way about getting unbiased data? So number 3, it says a criminologist wants to know whether social factors are the cause of criminal behavior. This would be, we probably wouldn't want to do an experiment. So remember, the experiment, everything is controlled except we force a treatment. So if we're studying whether criminal behavior has social factors, we would have to force people to commit criminal acts, which is unlawful. So this would be an observational study, right? You can't force people to commit criminal acts, and so you just have to observe them. So this would be best done through an observational study. Now, how to best go about doing the observational study? Like I said, there's multiple answers. What I would think is going to, one city or one town. Remember, it's asking about social factors, right? So you want to find a place. You don't want to crisscross like states where social norms are different. Okay, you don't want to crisscross. Like you probably wouldn't want to go to Salt Lake and to I don't know, Cedar City, because the social norms are different. Okay, it's a different different demographics, right? So you'd want to stay within one city, and you would want to pick people that have similar characteristics, so similar age, similar race, similar gender, things like that. And then you would want to find people that have been incarcerated, people that are not incarcerated, and just kind of observe their life. Okay. Number 4, it says a pharmaceutical company wants to know whether the new medication on heart disease has a side effect on individuals. This should be done through an experiment. Now, the reason we want to experiment here is because we don't want to do an observational study, because then we'd only observe the people that actually took the drug. We want to know if the drug works, so we need a control group. We need to see people that haven't taken the drug. That's why we'd want to experiment there. Once again, how you would set it up, you'd want to randomize it. So you'd get all your volunteers. You would randomize people that got a placebo and people that didn't get a placebo, got the treatment. And then you would just, however long you want the study to take, you would just have them come in repeatedly throughout the year or throughout the years, and you would take their vitals, right? So blood pressure, blood pressure, beats per minute on their heart, things like that. Okay, number 5. So it says, a company wants to test the effectiveness of a new moisturizing cream designed to help improve skin complexion. Identify a potential problem, if any, with each experimental design, then describe how you can improve it. So part A says the company randomly selects 10 individuals. 5 subjects are given the new moisturizing cream, and the other 5 are given a placebo. After 8 weeks, each subject is evaluated, and it is determined that the 5 subjects who have been using the cream have improved skin complexion. So first thing is the sample size is way too small, only 10 people. Okay, sample size needs to be much, much bigger. The other thing is 5 subjects are given new moisturizing cream and the other 5 are given a placebo, but it doesn't say there's a control. What if they're putting on other creams and lotions? And sorry, that made me think of Nacho Libre. What if they're putting other creams and lotions on? Right, there's no control. What about diet? Okay, diet can affect skin condition, right? So there's not really there's not much control in the experiment. Part B, the company randomly selects a large group of individuals, so big sample size. Half of the individuals are given the new moisturizing cream, and the other half of the individuals may use their own moisturizing cream or none at all. After 8 weeks, each subject is evaluated and it is determined that a significant large number of subjects who receive the moisturizing cream have improved skin complexion. So the problem here is what I was just saying with the last one, is people are using their own moisturizing cream. There's no control. The control group has to be given a placebo because we don't know, sorry, my screen's turning dark. We don't know if the other moisturizing cream is causing skin condition to decrease or not, or to, is it decrease? You guys know what I mean. Okay. So there isn't, once again, there's not really a control. Okay, one group is allowed to kind of do what they want, and the other group is, no, you have to take this cream. There needs to be a placebo. Okay. All right, and so that's it for the notes. 10.4, like I said, kind of a quick video. 10.4 is on experimental design, so that's why we kind of talked about experiments a lot, or kind of our vocab was on experiments. And like I said, that's it. So there's homework up for 10.4. I mean, you guys have time, you can work together on the homework, but right, you need to be working on stuff. Okay, I shouldn't come back and you guys be like, oh, we didn't do anything. Okay, because then that's going to be on you. I'm moving on to 10.5 when I come back.